This is Channel 13 News, and tonight we're going to talk to you about gun control. But first, some historical context. The origins of the Second Amendment and gun control in the United States go as far back as the English Bill of Rights in 1689. The framers of our country used many existing documents and schools of thought for our own Constitution and Bill of Rights. One quote from the English Bill of Rights: "Subjects which are Protestants may have arms for their defense suitable to their condition, and as allowed by law," directly shows the inspiration from which the founders drew from. This quote was also reiterated in the Blackstone Commentaries in 1765, saying that the public had a right of arms suitable to their condition and degree, and such are allowed by law. These inspirations are some of the earliest examples, but with a bit of research it's possible to find origins which date back even further. In the Journal of American History, Robert E. Shalhoub wrote an article called "The Ideological Origins of the Second Amendment," where he pointed out a Florentine tradition which had been set forth by Niccolo Machiavelli, where economic freedom and power was given to the people through the arming of all citizens. This was used much like our own Second Amendment to avoid corruption and tyranny. The inspiration for our Bill of Rights are not limited to European sources. One major event in our own backyard heavily influenced our rights. This event was known as Shays' Rebellion. Though it may not have directly affected the Second Amendment, it did provide cause for elimination of the Articles of Confederation and the creation of our current Constitution. The reason that this particular event is worth noting is that it involved ordinary civilians taking up arms against a government that they felt was corrupt. This was a group of ordinary farmers that had enough with tax collections and debt collections which they deemed unfair, and decided to take up arms and fight for a more reasonable system of government. The idea of standing up to one's government may seem a bit outlandish, and the farmers were unsuccessful in their quest, but civilians owning guns to prevent tyranny and corruption is something that is still relevant today, 200 plus years later. This reason alone is what so many people fight today for gun rights and reasonable gun control. Throughout the years, many influential people have made statements on their opinions of gun control, such as former President Bill Clinton, in which he said, "When we got organized as a country and wrote a fairly radical constitution with a radical Bill of Rights, giving radical amounts of freedom to Americans, it assumed that Americans who had that freedom would use it responsibly. When personal freedom is being abused, you have to move to limit it." This clearly signified a call for greater restrictions. It is worth noting a much more radical quote in a similar vein. Adolf Hitler was quoted as saying, "The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so." Indeed, I would go so far as to say that the supply of arms to the underdogs is a sine qua non for the overthrow of any sovereignty. A statement like this one shows the need for impartial and balanced policy when it comes to radical gun laws in either direction. One of the most reasonable viewpoints was given by Thomas Jefferson in a letter to James Madison in 1787, where he said, "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery." It's easy to make a snap judgment on a topic such as gun control, but it's very important to not only look at today's events, but events throughout history to have a more knowledgeable opinion on the topic. Even now, in a modern setting, gun rights are still more relevant than ever. 4 American presidents have been assassinated, and even more have been attempted throughout history. We've also seen mass shootings sensationalized in the media as a new and growing problem. In recent memory, Aurora, Colorado theater shooting, Sandy Hook, Isla Vista, and Virginia Tech. Most notable among these, however, is the Columbine Massacre. The tragedy was used as a platform not only to attack countercultures such as metal music and video games, but gun rights of the average United States citizen. Perhaps most famous for leading the charge against countercultures in the name of safety was Jack Thompson, who insisted violent video games drove kids to murder. Despite media sensation, gun crime and overall violence has actually fallen in this country. Proponents of anti-gun legislation would point to the attempted assassination of Congresswoman Gabby Gifford for an example of potentially effective gun legislation. Her would-be assassin was stopped when he had to stop to reload his weapon. Not long after this event, there was a call for limited magazine sizes. As society changes, it's our job as citizens to inform ourselves on the history of guns in this country and the technological advances the Founding Fathers could never have accounted for. Sensible legislation can only come from an informed and accountable Congress elected by responsible and informed citizens.
Hi, this is Samantha from Channel 13 News. Today we're talking about gun rights and gun control, and now we're going to go over to the panel discussion.
Hi, this is Channel 13 News. I'm Nick. I'm here with Mark, Cody, Hannah, and Samantha, and we're going to talk about our personal opinions of gun rights in this country. So Cody, how do you feel about the current state of our rights according to the Constitution and the Second Amendment?
Some rights are always relevant, and some are going to evolve with time. The Constitution is a living document, and it was created so that we can, in a way that we can constantly fix and amend it to fix the problems in our current society. Guns were more practical in the Founding Fathers' time in a sense that it was used on a daily basis for hunting, protecting one's family. They were constantly picked up and used, as of today, where you can buy a gun for protection and it sits in your house for 2 or 3 years before you ever even see it again. So in many ways, guns are timeless in the way that you want to protect your family, but they're not necessary to survive on a day-to-day basis. For the sake of overthrowing a tyrannical government, as time goes by, that gets more and more preposterous. With certain military advances, the civilian population is not going to be able to overthrow a current military. So I think our guns in that right are becoming obsolete. But when it comes to defending your family and your home, that's something that's timeless and something that we'll always need rights for.
So Mark, how do you feel about the current restrictions on buying a firearm?
Yeah, I think you should have to do a background check. I think there should be more laws and more safety courses so people have a better knowledge of how to actually use a firearm, as opposed to just thinking you just got to pull a trigger, you know, and things of that nature. Also, periodical background checks as opposed to just a background check when you originally buy a gun, because people's behaviors and things of that nature and attitudes in general change.
So Hannah, how do you feel about current limits or lack thereof when it comes to the current magazine sizes and the amount of bullets a gun can carry?
I don't really see why guns need to have a large amount of bullets in them. If you have a gun in your house and if you're going to shoot at like an intruder, probably only shoot 3 times to kill them, not like 30. I think like large amounts of bullets and like magazine sizes that are larger, unnecessary.
So Samantha, how do you feel about the current state of carrying a gun on you? Do you feel that you would be more comfortable with someone open carrying a gun where it's visible to anyone? Or would you feel better if you saw someone in the store that didn't have it exposed, someone who was carrying a gun but had it concealed legally on them where it didn't cause any controversy?
Personally, I think that if I went to like Walmart or something and somebody was just open carrying a gun, I would feel so uncomfortable, like I would probably want to leave, because I wouldn't want to know that somebody was having a gun on them. But if somebody had it concealed, like in their jacket or something, like I could have one in my jacket and no one would know. So if you don't know, then you can't really feel uncomfortable.
So Cody, how do you feel about the semi-automatic replica assault rifles that are currently for sale?
An automatic weapon, you would hold down the trigger and it would continuously spray bullets until the clip was empty. With a semi-automatic gun, you still have to pull the trigger each time for it to actually fire. As to if it's actually necessary or not, I don't like to just to think about the legality of things as if it's necessary or not. Many people's hobbies are not exactly necessary. That's kind of what makes it a hobby. And it's a constitutional right, so I don't think necessary is quite the right term to describe it.
So Mark, how do you feel about people owning guns? Do you think each household should have an individual limit, or should they be allowed to own as many as they want?
I don't think there should be a limit to how many guns you should own in your house, because there's different guns for different things. For example, an elephant gun obviously is made to shoot an elephant. Mm-hmm. And that might be like a vague example, but say you were an avid gun collector and you had some guns from the early 1900s. Well, there's no reason why you should not be able to have those guns, because there's a gun limit in the household. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there should be a limit. However, I think there should be a lock on every single gun in the United States, more importantly, Michigan.
So Hannah, how do you feel about guns being inherently dangerous? Do you feel that they're unsafe, or do you feel that it solely relies on the end user?
I don't really feel that guns are unsafe. It's definitely the person carrying the gun. Guns don't kill people, people kill people, obviously. You don't blame the gun, you blame the person when somebody gets murdered, so I definitely think it's all in the hands of the owner of the gun.
Cody, do you feel that hunting and sport shooting are valid reasons to own a gun?
Hunting is a sport that many people partake in every year. It's a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. There's no question in my mind that it's a valid reason for people to purchase and own firearms. The hunting is by far not the only reason to own a gun, and I don't want to have to get into this idea that there has to be a specific reason that you purchase a gun. But I think a gun is a constitutional right, so even if hunting isn't something that you do, you don't need a reason, to purchase a gun. It's your right to do so.
So Mark, from what Cody just said, how do you feel about sport shooting and hunting and other reasons to own a firearm?
Well, I believe there should be a reason. Yes, it is a right to carry or to have a concealed weapon or carry a gun. However, you should have a reason. To just buy a gun just because you want to be like status quo, everyone else on the block is not a good reason. Because then you might, slack off on your reasonings for training and practice and things of that nature.
The Founding Fathers never expressly made any requirements to purchase a gun. I feel that having to give the government a reason that you're purchasing a gun is a bit too intrusive. A person doesn't need to disclose why they need a weapon to the government in order to obtain one. As far as keeping up with the requirements, I think that's irrelevant to the reasoning why they purchase a gun. Rules are rules. If they don't keep up with the requirements to own a gun, then they lose it. But I don't think that they should have to give the government additional information in order just to exercise their basic constitutional rights.
That's all we have for you tonight here at Channel 13 News. Stay safe and stay informed.
All
Make it
right,
as awkward as we possibly can.
where did you pause? Same button?
Yeah. Did you even have the video
Is it
going?
recording?
Or is it going right now?
It's going right now.
Okay,
My
so
bad.
it wasn't going before, so you're talking.
Okay, but keep talking.
Okay,
Samantha,
so-
say something. How was your weekend?
It was good.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Did you do any hunting over the weekend?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Crazy person if you're right to the camera. So what you're gonna want to do, crazy person if you're right to the camera. So what you're gonna want to do